We got an update, and there are elevated fails to deliver levels. These have spiked once again for NIO Stock. I wanted to make you aware of it as soon as I saw. This is delayed, lagged data, and so we never get it real time. But if there are predatory shorts who are targeting and manipulating the stock price for NIO, this is one of the places we might be able to see it. There are two things I want to point out. This is an over 5 million spike on the fails to deliver, represented by the white lines. This is an over 3.5 million, or rather almost, not quite 3.5 million. So on a single day, that many shares couldn't be located. And that just seems suspicious to me, especially if we look at the correlation of the stock price represented in yellow. And then if we go back just a little bit, this is year over year. So right now, this delivered data is coming in the July timeframe. And look at those elevated spikes on the fails to deliver with the low stock price. If we go back to the same month and time frame in July of last year, 2023, look at that. The white lines much smaller, no big spike, nothing even over 1.5 million shares, and the stock price noticeably higher relative to where it is now. Here's the other, the 5 million, which was, I believe, in late March of 2024, that spike. And then again, look at that stock price just dipping down. But if we go back about a year, we're talking about right in this time frame, you've got a low, even the high point in early April was still under 2 million. And look at the stock price, not suppressed, or apparently, allegedly, potentially suppressed by folks who may be shorting it and predatorily, perhaps illegally even doing it. Some maybe aren't. Some may be a market maker with a short position who can get a pass and can essentially legally naked short in the US market. Some could be doing this across markets globally. I've talked more about that. I've got a playlist that I've created. If you want to get more in depth as to that, just look at the Wall Street playlist on the channel and check that out. But now let's talk a little bit about insurance registration data. And is there a little drama with this? I don't know. Hang on. Let's talk about it. First off, NIO with 5,400. That's for the week of July 22nd through the 28th. Not surprisingly, at least to me, and those of us who have been on this channel tracking this data for a long time, toward the end of the month, NIO has stronger numbers. That's just typically what we see trend-wise. And this is my 88th video, so obviously I've been tracking this for a while. I don't get highly emotional over these numbers. I just like to track and have an idea what things look like. I also understand this data doesn't come from NIO, so it's an estimate. It's not necessarily exact. But if we just look at July and we note, and this was an outlier to start the month, we usually don't see numbers this strong. So 5,300 plus 3,400 in that second week of July. Obviously, that's 8,700 there. And then another 4,600 and then 5,400 this week with a few days left. It looks like, as I mentioned last week in the video, 20,000 in July looks like a very doable number on the delivery side for NIO. But I'll wait and we'll talk about it after NIO announces and shares those delivery numbers once the month is in the books. Now let's move over and talk about maybe a little bit of drama. NIO exec asks Li Auto to stop sharing weekly sales figures. Now hang on, I want to share something with you. If you aren't aware of this, this is Sean. He has a channel on YouTube. It's called The Telescope. And right down here, this is a compilation of all NIO related content from a former NIO PR employee. Sean used to work for NIO. His video content is phenomenal, not just on NIO. He covers a lot more than just NIO. He reviews a lot of models, a lot of different companies. But one of the things that he shared in one of these videos, and I shared this playlist because I can't remember which video it was from or in, but he mentioned that NIO is actually the company that started doing the monthly data. They started announcing the monthly data, and then Li Auto, I think because it made Li Auto look good, started doing the weekly data. But I will say this, and this is not the complaint necessarily as per the exec from NIO, but I've noticed, we've talked about it here on the channel, that Li Auto typically, with respect to NIO's data, they usually shortchange them on the numbers. The NIO monthlies usually end up higher than what Li Auto, shares in their data. It doesn't happen every time, but we've seen it enough times that I just kind of dismiss that. And that's one of the reasons I try to share from ThinkerCar, whose source is the internet, maybe more or less accurate. I'm not sure. But in any event, I just thought it was interesting and wanted to point out for those who don't know that Sean talked about in a previous video that NIO is actually the pioneer on the side of sharing the monthly data. So I do think it's interesting that they are not happy about Li Auto with the weekly data. But anyway, you can check that article out if you want to see what CNV Post was talking about with respect to that. There's a lot more to talk about, and I'll be back with more content, but I want to get this thing up and out. So have a great day. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you all again very soon.